This is K-Town. I'm going to take you through some of the most creepy, chilling, and downright terrifying experiences you've ever heard. This is the X Podcast. There are many explanations for the doppelganger phenomena. Mystics throughout the ages have believed they are supernatural creatures, either spiritual copies of the person or a downright demonic twin. Meanwhile, scientists say they're just glitches in the brain or mental illnesses such as schizophrenia. Only two things are certain about these eerie apparitions. They are often bad news, and a surprising number of significant historical figures have claimed to be haunted by them. Here are some of their stories. Catherine the Great, the 18th century Empress of Russia, was a powerful and dangerous figure. She was not fazed by small matters, such as seeing her own ghostly doppelganger take over her throne. It is said that one night Catherine was lying in her bed when worried servants told her they had just seen her enter the throne room. When Catherine set out to investigate, she found her doppelganger sitting calmly on the throne. Catherine immediately ordered her sentries to shoot at the ghostly counterpart. The stories don't tell whether the bullet had any effect on the spectral empress. However, Catherine herself died soon afterwards. Queen Elizabeth I of England reigned from 1558 to 1603, was the last Tudor to rule that country. Widely recognized as a charismatic, level-headed, and savvy monarch, she was the kind of person one wouldn't expect to dabble in the paranormal, which makes it all the more scary when she claimed she had witnessed her doppelganger. According to the Queen, the spectral Elizabeth was lying motionless on her bed, almost like a corpse laid out for presentation. The experience was particularly haunting because such appearances are said to be a certain sign of death. Still, it wouldn't be easy to put this down as a temporary glitch in the mind of an elderly, stressed-out ruler, if it wasn't for the fact that Elizabeth died soon after seeing the doppelganger. Percy Shelley was a brilliant poet in his own right, although he is mainly remembered as the husband of Mary Shelley, the author of Frankenstein. Although one would assume that Mary, the horror writer, would be the one to see ghosts and monsters, when it was in fact Percy who witnessed doppelgangers. These confrontations included one especially haunting experience where he walked onto a terrace only to be greeted by his doppelganger, who asked him, "How long do you mean to be content?" Strangely, Percy's doppelganger was also witnessed by his close friend, Jane Williams, who saw it passing by her window on a route frequently walked by the real Percy, to a dead end, but never returning. The real Percy was nowhere near. It was shortly after these sightings that Percy drowned in a sailing accident in 1812. Abraham Lincoln was known as Honest Abe, and as such was very open about his interest in the paranormal, at least in private discussions. According to the man himself, he also experienced some paranormal activity. On the night of his first election, he took a moment to rest on a couch one evening. While there, he happened to glance in a mirror and saw his own visage, except that it had two faces. A second Lincoln, pale and ghostly, was looking at him from the mirror right next to his own face. He rose from the couch, and the doppelganger disappeared. He sat back down only to see it again. Lincoln was startled, but his wife, Mary, was downright terrified. She was convinced that the doppelganger was bad news and a certain sign that Lincoln would be re-elected on a second term, possibly because 2 Lincolns equals 2 terms, but he wouldn't survive it because the second Lincoln looked deathly. Lincoln went on to repeat the couch experiment every once in a while. He did manage to glimpse the doppelganger one more time, but after that it stopped appearing. Maybe it had delivered its message, as Lincoln indeed didn't make it through his second term. Present-day doppelganger accounts. This chilling story happened when I was 15 years old. My grandmother spent a lot of time in my room trying to keep it tidy. She was a clean freak. One day I came home and I found her staring in my closet. She wasn't moving at all. It was like she was suspended in the middle of cleaning the closet. I asked her if she was okay, but she totally ignored me. My 85-year-old grandmother just continued to stare in the closet. Suddenly, she turned her head slowly toward me and gave me the coldest stares. She had the evilest eyes I had ever seen. A chill ran down my spine. Those were not my grandma's eyes, I thought. Then she looked away from me and walked into my closet, closing the door behind her. But when I went to my closet, she wasn't there. She had literally disappeared into thin air, completely gone. I froze for a few seconds. Then I yelled for her and heard her say, "I'm down here in the kitchen. Dinner's almost ready." I ran to the kitchen to find her standing there, cooking away. Then I asked her if she was here the whole time. "Of course I was, dear. Dinner's not going to make itself," she laughed. I mean, she had no idea what had gone on upstairs. What did I find in my bedroom that day? I still have no idea. I was a sophomore at the University of California when this incident took place. I saw my roommate's doppelganger. I'm not positive, but I think this doppelganger crossed from a parallel universe. I say that because she looked pretty sinister. She looked exactly like my friend, but she didn't have the sweet smile my friend has. She looked twisted, almost like a reverse image of my friend. The smirk was definitely not anything my friend could have produced. At the time, I had never heard of a doppelganger, and I still wouldn't call myself an expert. All I know is that I saw something that looked eerily like my best friend. She wore the same clothes, but she had a limp. And later, I realized that everything about her was reversed. Her buttons were on the opposite side of her dress. She looked like a complete reverse mirror image. My friend and I were sitting in the TV room in the basement. It was the weekend. the campus was vacated. My friend decided to go to bed, and a few minutes later, the TV picture started to break up. I tried to fix it, but some movement of some kind caught my attention. I looked towards the stairs and saw my friend walking back down into the basement. I was surprised, as she had been falling asleep in front of the TV. I asked her if she was okay, and she said nothing. When she reached the bottom of the stairs, I noticed the limp, and I noticed the reverse buttons, even though it took a few hours for that to register. The doppelganger said nothing, and the TV corrected itself, so I sit down with her and we started to watch some old movies. About an hour later, my friend came downstairs and asked if she could speak with me. For a moment, I was looking at two versions of the same person. I went over to my friend, and before I could point it out, the doppelganger had disappeared, and my friend didn't see her face. It was the strangest incident I have ever come across. This took place in the late 70s, and my friend would never believe my story. Years later, however, I met her with her family, and she had a limp. Apparently, a car crash had caused it. I still wonder if my friend was meant to see her doppelganger, not me. But the doppelganger made no attempt to turn and talk to my friend. She just sat there until she disappeared. The whole thing was a very weird occasion, and still creeps me out today. I will have more of these chilling tales for you next week. Don't forget to subscribe and review the show on iTunes. This is the X Podcast.